Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Global Party Healing from the Inside Out. I am flagged. I'm not flagged because I'd be in the middle. Debbie Pearson is in the middle, and she's, yes, beautiful, awesome on the inside. I think on the outside too.
Thank you.
And Holly is in Flagstaff, Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the two of you are going to talk about the 4 F's. The two of you are going to talk about the 4 F's
of relationship. Yeah.
Of relationship woes.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. I did not plan this party to be about relationships. And I always say that source consciousness does this. And it's been very interesting to see already. This is a dialogue that everybody is ultimately dealing with on some certain level, right?
Yep.
So before we get into the woes, I asked you, Deb, what song, that you resonated with, and what song did you choose?
Happy by Pharrell Williams.
And so every great party has to have a little music. So I'm just going to see if we can play a little bit of this.
What I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space.
In the air, and I don't care.
I don't care. I
don't care. It's about woes.
What?
I said I don't care because it's about relationship woes. But what were you saying about it? The song?
Well, the song helped me get through my walk on the Camino. About the last 7 or 8 days were really, really tough because it was like days 31 through 38. And I was exhausted. And, you walk about 6 to 8 hours a day. And that song, I don't know, it was like it just made me feel so good. And then I've used that song when I'm down, and it just helps me bring me up. And then it reminds me just of how happy my life is and how happy I can be. So it's one of my favorite songs. It brings me joy.
Can you just also tell some of the viewers here that have no idea, you go, Camino, what the heck is that?
Oh, so sorry. There's a very long path in the north of Spain called El Camino de Santiago. And it is a 500-mile backpacking trek. And it is, some people do it as a pilgrimage. Some people do it, well, you can do it for anything because you're losing weight, because you maybe lost somebody or have some upset on the inside. And it's just it's a walk. It's a long walk. And when I became acquainted with it, I was just totally drawn to it, had to do it. So that's what the Camino is. It's a very, very long walk across the north of Spain. So I love hiking. Holly's also a hiker. She does a lot in the Northwest. I mean, the Southwest areas. Mm-hmm. And she likes to the kind where you take everything with you. I don't like doing that. I like to go where the bed is, take a bath, and all like this. She likes sleeping under the stars, and that's really awesome too. So it's like whatever works for you to have that total inner joy, you go for it.
Well, that probably is kind of what goes on in relationships, right? Some want to stay at the 5-star hotel and some want to stay under the 5 stars. So,
all 5 of the stars.
I mean, last night I was out. I woke up at 2 and it's like, go outside. And it was like the Milky Way. Everything was there present. And it was just like, that was it. When you have those experiences, Holly, like you're out in the middle, you just probably have I feel like I'm in a dome of stars from horizon to horizon, right?
I always think of it as a hug. To me, it feels like a hug. I just feel like I'm being hugged by the universe. And we're camping right now where we're at. And so we've been sleeping under the stars every night for a week. And it just felt like that. I just wake up in the middle of the night and just bathe in it. That's what it feels like. Yeah, it's magical.
So how can there be any relationship woes when you're happy, you've been walking the Camino, you're out in Arizona. I mean, you're just doing this for everybody else, I guess.
Well, it wasn't always this way. That's for sure. And I think maybe that's the best news of all is no matter where you are, there's hope to move into a direction, learn very specific information, some skills to get you to a place where those relationship woes actually take such a back seat to what's actually going on in your life that you can live this incredible, harmonious, joyful life with your partner. It may not seem like it because you may seem at such odds. So if it's okay, we'll get started on what's happening and what that's all about. All right.
Yes.
So many people have all this trouble in their relationships, and we come from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of problems. We have different types of parents. Our parents parented us in different ways. And what ends up happening is we carry a lot of the emotional baggage that we learned in childhood with us, where we needed it to survive when we were children. But there's these certain needs we have, like we have the core needs of food, water, warmth, air, all that, right? Basic human needs. But there's these other needs that we have that a lot of people don't really have that conversation about. Holly, jump in if I'm forgetting anybody, like love and connection and autonomy and growth, understanding our world and stuff like that. What's that?
Significance.
And significance, having value. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when we're little and those needs are not met, and those are most of the like emotional needs that we have, we can get some very deep wounds. And so what happens is, unfortunately, they don't get healed in childhood, and we spend the rest of our life basically trying to heal them, but we do it in such a way from such a subconscious level that we don't even realize that that's what we're doing. So much of our discomfort comes from our upbringing. Now, I'm not blaming anybody's parents.
Right.
Our parents did the best that they could do with what they had. I mean, we don't think so sometimes because some of our parents were real jerks or whatever, but their parents, I mean, look at their parents and their parents' parents and stuff like that. And then we kind of get a little bit of an idea of, oh, this has been handed down a lot. But in this time, this chrysalis time we're in, we're starting to become aware to the point where, like you said, all of a sudden it's all about relationships right now. Well, here's...
So can I ask you just one second for a second, just in this space of time that we're in with, so we are handed down, as you said, the patterns. We're not blaming our parents, but in a sense, we all go through that stage, right? You do.
We all have.
We all pretty much wake up when we're doing this issue and go, well, if they had done it differently, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in. And then we go, when we got to deal our own stuff. And we can intellectualize and say, well, they were handed it down from their parents, or we were handed down this issue of slavery and, this whole hierarchy. We didn't sign up for it, but we then have to be responsible. So there's no blaming. We have to be right.
This is no blaming,
right?
But explaining.
Yeah,
I'm trying to explain how it is that we got where we are. And one thing is, no one knew. Now, with the internet, people from across the world can send out information, and people on this side can get it. So what they learn over there, or what we learn over here, can be transferred all over the place. And we are learning some things, right? So one of the things is the first 5 years of our life, and I mean from birth and infancy and toddler up to 5 years, we're kind of in that like semi-unconscious stage, or what is it? The hypnotic stage, I guess you could call it, where we're just absorbing a lot of information, and a lot of stuff happens during that time. And what we're going to be talking about, these relationships, are not just romantic relationships, although we're going to concentrate on that, but any relationship. Also, it pertains to all types of relationships. So I'm talking about male, female, same sex, and it doesn't matter. All the race, creed, religion, all that kind of stuff. All of it's basically the same in when it comes to the core wounds, because it's basic human needs. So I want to talk a little bit about the 4 different types of ways that our parents could have been. And I say parents, and I mean caregiver. And if it was, from birth until, it could be whoever was your caregiver during that time. So I might say parents and caregiver interchangeably. But there's 4 basic styles of how we were parented. So it may have been a safe and secure parent, one that was available and supportive, available to us emotionally. And actually, and there are people like this that had parents that actually made their child feel worthy, right? So that's kind of like a safe and secure type of parenting style. Another one was safe and secure. And again, this could be one or both caregivers or several, where it was safe and secure, but they weren't available. Somehow there was a disappearing of some sort. The disappearing could have been through no fault of their own. They got a job, somebody out of town was sick, whatever, they just weren't there. And sometimes, like I had a parent that was like that. She had a need to take care of other people. So if anybody in the family got sick or whatever, you might wake up and go, "Where's mom?" Like you didn't know. And then some family or friend would come whisk you away for a weekend or a week. And you're like, "What's happening?" And so it's very confusing and upsetting as a child. You didn't know what was going on. Another type of parent style, and again, one or more, could be physically available, but emotionally unavailable. So you got food and clothes and got your shots or whatever, but there wasn't that hugging and that love and that nurturing, and you weren't exactly made to feel secure. And that in and of itself can create a lot of problems. And we'll get into soothing in just a minute about who can and who can't. And the last, let me just say a little bit more about the physically available, but emotionally unavailable. That parent could be like a distant parent, distant in emotion, cold or narcissistic. They could have been like just really unconscious of their behavior, kind of abusive, or maybe the kind that put that unrealistic pressure on you. You're a T-ball, you're 4 years old and the dad is screaming, you're just not perfect. You missed it, dummy, or whatever. So it's that kind of behavior that can really wreak havoc on us as a child, a core wound. So the 4th kind is a physically unavailable and an emotionally unavailable. And that might have been a parent that was an addict, abusive, had mental issues, like emotionally unstable. They were unpredictable. They might be there and then be gone for a week or a month and come back and then fighting all the time. And so it's just very, very uncomfortable. So what happens is that forces the child to figure out, how do I survive in all of this? I need to figure out how to survive, because the brain knows one thing: survival. Because the only alternative to survival is not survival, which basically is death. And we all kind of heard staying with the pack, especially in caveman times, staying with the pack, because if you're separated from the pack, you're sure to die. So as children, we believe that no matter what our parent is like, it's the lesser of the 2 evils. So we have to figure out, how do we survive in that? So there's 4 styles of that too. So there's something called self-soothing. So if we have safe and secure parents, we basically learn how to we basically learn how to self-soothe, because we feel very comfortable. We felt worthy, and we just realize we're good. Things are good for us and we're okay. We just are very comfortable in our skin. Then there's the ones that have that dismissive kind of parents, like, "Get away, I'm not here emotionally for you." And they learn to self-soothe, but from a very protective of themselves energy, where it's like, "Look, I can take care of myself. I'm good, but you're on your own. You take care of you. I got me, you get you." And that's not necessarily the healthiest way, but it's not bad. There's also 2 different styles that just can't self-soothe and needs the other person. And this is where problems begin to show up. And we'll get to those 4 F's in just a few minutes. But the self-soother, I know, the one that cannot. What's that?
I've been so, what is that F word with the F in it?
We have 4 F's, girl. Not just one, 4 of them. But so the one who cannot self-soothe needs another. They need another to kind of make them feel whole because of that parent that kept leaving.
So is
for
that
whatever
the
reason.
codependency thing?
It is a codependency. It's
Okay.
like, I am codependent on you being with me in some way in order for me to feel comfortable. And so the other kind that cannot soothe is the kind that is also codependent, really, really wants it, but is also deathly afraid of being betrayed. So it's like a fight. I want you and I need you, but I'm scared of you. So it's a push-pull inside of their own bodies. So super, super uncomfortable. But again, good news, once we can really understand what's really, really happening at this point in time, there are ways to learn some information, some skills, to be able to practice some of this. And in short order, and I don't mean like 5 minutes, but not years, but can get through it and understand, oh, there's that again. I now know what to do, and we can move beyond it.
It helps you to move beyond the feeling of being a victim or what's wrong with me.
Yes.
And just that, all this information can be very heady, but that's what it does. It's just an understanding. So you can go, oh, okay, my parents didn't treat me that way because there's anything wrong with me. Because it's, I think, what a lot of us end up doing. We're like, oh, wow, what happened? This just understands. Our parents were doing the best they can. This is what they learned. And now we understand it. And then you can move into how to move beyond it.
Exactly.
So
go ahead, Jacqueline.
I guess there's a whole world out there still in North America that has yet to open the door to their inner childhood wounds, isn't there?
Yeah. Totally. And definitely North America, and probably other places as well. If a person was not raised in a way of feeling secure and that their needs and wants and values and beliefs were worthy of their parents' time, they're not going to have that comfortable feeling within their skin at all, but it can be learned where then they can, and then they can pass that on to other people and help other people. And it's kind of that, thing where, it's like one person tells another and then they tell a couple people and we help each other. And eventually it is going to spread out where we will become more a world, whether our parents took care of us very well or not. But as we keep growing and having the kids and we can share that with each other, we'll get to a place where people are more secure in themselves, because the more we're around secure people, the more secure we can become, emulating what they're doing and understanding these sensations that occur in our body. And I'll tell you, this is part of the 4 F's right here, man. I'll talk about that in just a minute.
Well, I just would like to ask Holly, so when did you start to do your inner child work?
Well, and it's a good question, because this is what I was going to bring up. I've been doing inner child work since I was in my early 20s. I'm 52 now. And I mean, I read all the books because of my childhood, read all the books, went all to the therapy, did the whole thing for 20 years.
Did the John Bradshaw with the mobile balance? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All of it since, so my 20s would have been the 90s, early 90s, you know? And so, so I did all that. So believe me, I thought I've done the core wound work. I've been there, done that. And then I was in two separate long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the second one, I just realized that they weren't, the two that I had weren't fulfilling. And I decided from that moment on, I was only going to be in a relationship if I had a partner who saw and appreciated all of me. And that meant accepting, the wounds and stuff like that could see all of me. And so in that relationship, and amazingly enough, once I made that decision, I met my husband that I'm married to. We had been friends for years, and then we started dating within 2 months after that decision. I was prepared to be alone for the rest of my life. Right. And, but there was a whole nother level of healing that needed to be done once I was in that relationship with him. And I was determined, because everybody can have relationships and they can be fine and dandy.
Mhm.
But I was committed to having the relationship I have now, the deeply fulfilling, that just keeps getting better. We've been together 7 years, and every year it just is better and better. And I was committed to that. And so working through that stuff, you have to do it at a different level when you're actually in a partnership with somebody. And so, yeah, so I did it a long time, but I think doing it on your own and doing it in a relationship is kind of two different things. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what I wanted people to get here, that, you know, some people that are going, well, hold on, I did my inner child work like 30 years ago, right? You know, that's why us is like, I guess there's still some people that have never done it, and which most definitely.
Yep.
I feel healing from the inside out isn't a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ongoing experience. And even as I like to say, you know, surrendering and being a butterfly, you know, and in this other world, the infinite possibilities that exist in our realm are infinite. So you're continually having experiences. And from those experiences, you don't know what you don't know, because you don't know it until you get there. And then you go, oh, man, I thought I got rid of those dust bunnies.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that cobweb was gone a long time ago. I had no idea, right? So really, that's what we want people to get, is that the information is never old. So find the gems that you need here and be open to receive the gifts. Okay, Deb, what about you? Back to you.
So, back to me. You know, it's interesting. I had not been in a relationship for about 8 years. I decided, after being married 3 times and divorced 3 times, and then being in a relationship where we were living together, and it just, every time it was the same thing with me. I wanted to get closer. They pushed away. It was extremely uncomfortable. I felt like, wait a minute, how come things were just so wonderful and everything? That's like false advertising. That's not right. And it's BS. And I'm like, out. And so I would have these, you know, like arguments and fights, and anyway, I decided after the last boyfriend, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to deal with men anymore. And it wasn't men. I just needed to understand what the hell was going on with me. And like you guys, I mean, the books, the therapy sessions, the workshops, the seminars, I mean, on and on and on. And yeah, I learned tons of stuff, but still not in a relationship. I ended up doing a course, which is the course I teach, but I went through the course with someone else. But it was like, I went through this course and I learned deeply about myself. And a lot of us do think we know who we are, and we do, definitely on an intellectual level. That I'm not just, you know, dismissing that or you know, arguing that. But when I really deeply learned who I was, my life changed. My relationships. Now, these were all platonic relationships, because I chose not to be in a romantic relationship. All changed, and it was like, oh man, I began removing myself from some relationships, and then seeking more relationships that were more fulfilling to me platonically, and just so much better in my life. Like, I got this. I'm so happy. Everything's great. And through a strange twist of fate, I meet this man and we start dating. And in some ways, I was still that real independent person, feeling very secure about myself, very confident in so much of whatever. But we got to that point in the relationship, which is actually stage 3. So the first stage is like dating, getting to know each other. Stage 2 would be called the honeymoon stage. And stage 3 is the power struggle. Basically, who's going to get their needs met? You or me? Who's going to win in this? Now, everybody handles it differently. Some people just fly through it. Other people fight their entire lives. They're married for 60 years and they're still fighting. And you're like, what is going on? We're trying to heal core wounds. And not always, but there are 2 types that get together a lot, where she wants a lot from him. And I'm saying she and he, but again, whatever, the roles are, but she wants a lot from him. And he's like, you're just too much. I can't take it. Get back up. And so she feels now he's distancing. So now we're going to start getting into those 4 F's, right? So happens when what's going on inside of the person. I was the person where I'm like, I want to get closer and I want to get closer and I want to get closer because this feels really good to me. And he would be like, ew, it's too much. I can't handle it. And he'd be backing up. Of course, he's not saying the words. It would be like, I'd be like, hey, come here. And he'd be like, oh, look at the dog. How pretty. Or so, and it's like, I don't want to hear about the dog. Look, right here. This is what I want to talk about. Just like really upset, like really genuinely upset. And so I actually kind of broke up with him. I'm like, I'm not doing this again because it felt so familiar. And I came home and I actually went through all of this anxiety. And I didn't even know that I had anxiety. If you would have said, Debbie, that's anxiety, I would say, you don't know what you're talking about. I have anxiety. I think of anxiety as an anxiety attack or a panic attack.
Right.
But anxiety, these are the things that we live with. So many of us, not everybody, but so many of us live with these anxieties. So think about, you're in a relationship and you go try to talk to your partner, like, I want to spend time with you. And for whatever reason, maybe they're tired, maybe they don't feel well, whatever. You can pick a reason. Maybe he's being a jerk, or maybe he's just overwhelmed. And you go, I want to, and he's like, yeah, I can't do that. Immediately, if you were like me, there's a feeling like, I got to fight about this. Like, you're not honoring what my needs are. And we need to talk. Okay. We need to have a talk. We need to have a talk. But then what I ended up doing was I got so angry. I left and I went on the way home. I'm like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I ran away. Okay. So the first two F's were happening right then. The first one was,
you fleed.
I did. That's the second one. The first one was like fight and flight, right?
Oh, it's not, they're not all 4-letter words. They're 4 F words.
They're four,
Yeah.
4 F's.
Oh, so
F.
that's where I was stumped. I was like 4-letter F words for okay.
Well, maybe we can find 4-letter words, but for now, we're going to go with 4, 5, and 6 letters for the purpose today. But I did the first one, which is fight.
Right.
I would fight with him. Like, I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to argue with you. And it's not a physical fight we had, although some people have physical fights. Right. This was a verbal fight. But I'm trying to get a core wound because I don't know how to soothe myself, or didn't. I don't know how to soothe myself. I'm trying to get him to come in because I'm feeling anxious and nervous about what's going on. I feel distant, which is terrifying for somebody like me, which is like, I feel that fear of abandonment or rejection. I feel unlovable. Like, maybe there's something wrong with, I should have worn the purple eyeshadow instead of the blue eyeshadow, or whatever. These crazy concepts that come in our head. So I was fighting for myself, but against him. When it didn't work, I flee. I fight, flight. And I took off. And I'm like, I don't like this. I'm getting out. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And again, there's a sensation inside of me. And now there's 2 more that are very common. I don't do them as much as other people, although I have seen them in my life, right? So anybody that's got that anxious energy inside of them, even though you may not even recognize it as anxiousness. I mean, I thought I was being tough because I was fighting. And then I thought I was being like taking care of myself because I'm going to flee this situation. Didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And then the other 2 is, if you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. If I do this, he gets upset because he says it's too much. But if I go this way, it's like he's pulling me back. And if I go this way, something bad's going to happen in this way. And we actually go into just a paralyzed state, like we're frozen. So F number 3 is frozen. And we are really the looping goes in our minds where we just literally can't think because we're almost in a state of shock. Or maybe we are in a state of shock. I guess it depends on how intense it is. And then the 4th F, this is the 4-letter F, but it's FAWN, fawn, as in, can people pleasing. Can I do this for you? Would you like that? How about if I make your favorite meal? So it's just, oh, that's where you want to go? Let's go there. But what ends up happening, again, there's an anxiety inside. We don't recognize it as that. We just know we got to kick into gear. And so kicking into gear means people pleasing in a way where we feel like we're giving and giving and giving, but we're not getting back. We're not getting back as much as we gave, or we may give tons and that's okay. But if I ask you to do something, you better do it, right? And if you don't do it, then I'm resentful. So people pleasing often ends up in some sort of resentment. So what happens with these 4 F's is basically there's a sensation that occurs in the body. But because that sensation occurs from the reptilian brain, the lizard brain, right?
Right.
It's a subconscious thing that happens. So if we think about we're walking down the street and somebody whips out a knife, we are going to go into the subconscious brain is going to react. Blood's going to flow to our muscles. It's going to stop trying to digest our food. It's going to take care of us. The heart's going to beat faster so we can run and get out of that. And that's what it was designed for. But in our life today, we don't need to be in states of anxiety as much as we are. But because the reptilian brain can't determine that this upset feeling is, a creature chasing us, or
thousands of years old. Yeah.
or the guy with the knife, or just I'm upset because my boyfriend won't do what I want him to do. There's a sensation that comes in our body and we respond, and it's not a conscious thought. So that's like the big giant aha, is becoming consciously aware of our response to this sensation in our body is going to begin to clue us in as to what's actually happening. So where I was fighting with the boyfriend.
So people are reacting, right? Just so we're getting
for
people clear here.
sure.
So
Yes.
people are reacting on their inner childhood wounds that haven't been healed.
Yes.
And hence they're getting opposite results that they really want.
That they want. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So essentially it's like the whole friggin' world. We've been doing everything wrong and we're all doing this now and taking personal responsibility.
Well, it's not our fault that we have these wounds. I mean, whatever world we came into, it's not our fault, but it's now our responsibility to start taking a look at what's happening in our life instead of what we did when we did through survival, which was being hyper aware of the other person and wondering, are we going to get the crap beat out of us? And I have to make, so-and-so's home. I have to go hide. All of that, that's no fault of ours. But
it's about giving ourselves power. It's not, it may be responsibility, but really what this knowledge does and the tools that we teach on how to move through it, it's empowering. It helps you to know how to deal with it instead of just feeling a victim to, your past or your feelings or your reptilian brain. You can't just say, my stupid subconscious, because we empower you to be able to how to do with that. And the information is empowering as well as the tools. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Holly. It's like, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So is responsibility, so help me out here then. So is responsibility, is it it's a contentious issue? Is empowerment like the issue that people go, oh, if I could be empowered out of victimhood, and they're leaning into that. And whereas they wouldn't necessarily want to take responsibility for because it still makes them feel like they could be the ones that were responsible for what happened versus just saying, is that the idea that we want to distinguish here?
There's a thin line between, I think, people thinking about responsibility, feeling responsible, and feeling a victim and hopeless. And so, yeah, there's that thin line, depending on how people look at the definition of responsibility.
Right.
I'd like to add to that.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. we don't realize that we were victims, but we've stayed in that victim space. And there's an opportunity to step outside of that victim space, right? And by saying, oh, yeah, I can step outside of that, that means I don't have to live that uncomfortable way. But mainstream America, for sure, doesn't have that kind of information. I mean, if you can find it if you look for it, but they don't teach it in schools. Most kids don't learn it in their family of origin. Culturally, we don't teach that, right? You have to take like courses, and I mean, well, we all have taken those. And if you don't take the right kind of course, you're just not going to get the information. So the kind of course that Holly and I teach actually help you with specifically those things. It's like the difference between taking core classes in college or going specifically for a specific degree to do that thing. That's what we teach. It's like how to understand what's actually happened inside, to find the information that's needed so you can become safe within yourself, have your, the emotional security that you need and the confidence. And when you're deeply invested in who you are and you're so clear about your emotional, like I said, we know intellectually who we are, but we don't necessarily know emotionally who we are. But when we really get that, that's when that strength comes, that empowerment comes. Because if you don't know that and you're people pleasing because you're in a state of anxiety and anxiousness and you're like, oh, I got to do that. If somebody says, let's go, to L7, whatever that is, I just made that up. And you're like, I don't know what that is, but okay, I'll go. And you're like uncomfortable. Where if you knew who you were, you could say, you know what? I don't really want to do that. Or let's say go see a horror movie. You don't want to go see the horror movie. And you're like, I really don't want to go see that. But you don't go even though you don't want to go because you're people pleasing, or you don't fight with a person because what's really happening is you're trying to get them to do something for you, or you don't run away from the relationship because you now are understanding, oh man, I'm having that feeling where I'm trying to maybe make him chase me to prove to me he cares about me. That's what's happening right now. It's like you can understand what you're doing. And by understanding, that sensation leads to something, and that something leads to a behavior, and that behavior quite often leads to what you don't want. So by learning certain stuff, you get to learn what you do want. Then you can plot your GPS, because now you're like, clear, I'm here, and I know that I'm right here. Now I can plot my other point, because you got to have 2 points, because you can't get here if you don't know where you are. Okay? You just can't. The GPS can't work that way. So
you're going to help women and men both get clear on where they want to go, right? So really, first of all, I go anxious. You know what? I wake up and I go, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm doing this. How many relationships? I need help. So, is that one of the motions of once we identify? You take people from identifying to say, hey, it's great that you realize you need help.
Yes.
But now we're going to identify it. And what do we do next to get you to where you want to go?
Yeah, I think people say, I don't want to live like this anymore, but they don't know what to do so that they're not living like that anymore. That's what we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like, okay, we've both done it. Yeah. So,
I get people all the time. They always talk about what they don't want. They are so comfortable talking about what they don't want, and they don't even know how to say what they want. Right? Sure. It's like, and I have to use that example of the vacation. You don't go, I want to go to Costa Rica, and then go, but I'm going to, I'm going to go to Arizona instead. You know what I mean?
It's true though, but there's like a little bit of a magic thing that I can show everybody real quick, which is if you know what you don't want, you probably know what you do want because it's the opposite. But now the question is, but how do I get there? Like, you don't want to be around rude people. You want to be around courteous people. Well, where do you find them, right? I don't want to have this anxiety in my life. I want to be calm and comfortable. But how do you do that? So that's the question. Like, how do you get that thing that it is that you want? And again, that's what we teach. So, but it is, and it is hugely calming. In fact, my boyfriend said the other day to me, because it's like, I mean, we're kind of early in our relationship, and I was having all this anxiety, even though I had gone through my course and I was doing great with platonic relationships.
Right.
He came into my life unexpectedly, right? And so months later, and it's like, I'm nervous. Like I wake up, I'm like, what are we going to do today? Like, I need to know what to do. I need to know what we're doing. I didn't know that was being anxious. I thought I was being like a good purveyor of time. Like, we got to spend our time wisely, right? Like, what I did, and I didn't understand this till later, but what I really needed was for him to say, we're going to do something together. And that meant all was well. But if he was like, yeah, I need some time to myself, that meant I was rejected and he didn't care, and maybe he doesn't like me anymore or whatever. And he's all in the head, and it's crazy making. So when I put my skills into practice and went, wow, what are you thinking about? Oh, wow. And then I began to take the skills. There's one we call stop, drop, and roll. And it like helps you understand, you like stop that thought for just a moment, drop back and go, where's that coming from? And recognizing where it's coming from, and then roll into a new story. Well, if he did need some time, maybe he actually really needs to do that thing. And can you be okay alone? And then you can use the skill to ask the questions, is it true? And, all these different things. And then come to a place of, you know what, it really is probably okay. And I don't need to go through that. That was me self-soothing in a healthy way where I took care of myself. And I'll say it this way. I didn't need him to take care of me. But if he did put his arms around me, I want that, right? But it wasn't a desperation and a need where I'm clingy and miserable to him. And then I think we've all had friends somewhere in our lives that they seem to like us a whole lot more than we liked them. And they're calling us all the time and, come on over and let's do this together. And it's almost, it's like it's a little too much, and we push them back. So that's actually what a lot of guys or partners are doing, is like, oh, this is not feeling good energy. I don't think I want that right now. I'm just going to take a little break over here. Maybe you'll calm down a little bit, and then we can get back together later. And so again, the 4 F's, of relationship woes are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And if we notice ourselves doing that, to recognize we're having a low level of anxiety, sometimes a high level of anxiety, but it's anxiety and fear. And then to understand that there are ways to move beyond having that by getting the right information and skills to recognize what it is, and then how to shift and move yourself. And that, Holly and I are doing a class next Sunday on the 28th. And I would love, if anybody's interested, if they email me at info@debbiepearson.com, and you can see my name written there, but I'll let them in for free admission into the talk. And then they'll hear a whole lot more about what's actually going on and the different types of styles that people live in. There's, different energies that people have that make 2 styles like fight, because believe it or not, they're each trying to get their needs met from the other one. And it doesn't work when you can't communicate it in the right way.
And we're also going to teach a couple of tools to help you start moving forward. So we'll go more in depth, but that class is in that class we'll also be able to we'll be teaching some tools. Yeah.
And so that's Sunday, and what time zone?
Oh, it's Sunday, June the 28th.
Yep.
It is, the time zone is for Central, it's 4 to 5:30.
Okay.
Holly's in Pacific time. That will be
2 to 3:30.
Okay. And Jacqueline, I don't know, like,
I'll be at 6 because I'm in Atlantic time.
Well, if they go to my website, it's debbiepearson.com, and click on upcoming events, they'll at least be able to read about it and see it. So if anybody's interested in that, they can go there.
Yeah.
But this is Go ahead.
I would say that's a great place for them to start, right? Is
Sure.
to go and
Yeah, because we also have,
begin the journey.
Sure. Because we also have a class that's going to be all 4 Mondays in July, and then there's another upcoming class in August, and there's information. We have short-term classes like for a month. I have a long-term one that's like 3 months, 12 weeks, and all of this is about helping us understand more deeply, emotionally who we are, so we can become more safe, secure, and confident, where we don't need another person, but we want them, right? So it's kind of like, that's the light. No, that's the lighter for the light on top of the candle, on top of the icing, on top of the cake, right? So yeah,
That's
it's like
a good analogy.
So, but it is very wonderful to understand the anxiety can calm down and how different. My boyfriend was like, "You are so amazingly different." And I'm like, "It's good?" He's like, "Oh yeah." So I was like, how is it different? He goes, "You are so calm." I'm like, yeah, it does feel, I mean, it's like, that's what actually happens. You get calm and it feels so much better than that constant inside.
And the tools go through all areas of your life too. That's the beauty of the tools. We focus on relationships because relationships are really the cornerstone of life. I mean, we exist for relationships as human beings. And but the tools that we teach to help with the anxiety and stuff, it helps in all areas of your life deeply.
Especially the relationship you have with yourself. Yeah. That's where it starts. Yeah. But it affects everything. Our relationship with ourselves, which could be unknown, right? Kind of unknown, affects every single other relationship we have. It just does. So the better we are with ourselves, the more we have to give to other people, and the easier life is, and the happier. And it is.
Well, it's this recognition in a sort of a narcissistic way that we are the center of our own universe. It's just whether or not you want to be connected to everything else in your universe. So the wheel goes together instead of,
I want to challenge you on the word narcissistic. I don't know the actual definition of that, but I think it's really smart and what's the right word, Holly? Like, it's not self-centered. It's self-love, to be honest, to find out. So yeah, I mean, I guess we could use the word narcissistic in the sense that we are looking inward.
They're two totally different things. They're two totally different qualities. And I think Jacqueline knows that in the way that you're using narcissist. It's being self-centered, whereas if you have self-love, then you can relate to other people. You take care of yourself, but you still have that deep connection to other people. Whereas narcissists only care about, and they manipulate, and it's very superficial. Their care for other people is really superficial. They don't really care except how it affects them. And what we're teaching is really self-love, which everybody else around you will feel more loved and connected when you have that with yourself.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like this idea of things that are going out there in the world are, to me, are a greater reflection of what's really going on inside, that we are all part of each other. And so the more we self-love and self-heal, the more we actually connect and heal the whole. So if there's a gift that any themselves, it's to give themselves freedom to feel less anxious, right? To feel more connected. Right. Yes. And notice that you can be calm and appreciate it and actually have the relationship that you want by using the 4 F's, and none of them end with a K.
So true. So true. So
and things also give you the true sense of freedom. Everybody in their lives are looking for it to feel free. And when you have the tools and the knowledge, then you know, it's not always this worrying about what everybody else is thinking or doing or everything. You just, because you have that confidence and inner love and knowing, then that sense of freedom it's a true sense of freedom, no matter what's going on in your life.
Yeah. And that's the land of the butterflies, is that sense of freedom. And I do believe that, that's where we're all leading towards. And healing from the inside out is part of that, transformation. And so your connection is in the body of the post, but it'd be great too if you just wanted to add it to the comments of the details again. So because sometimes people don't read the top, they read the bottom, and then it will show up everywhere. Okay.
I'm trying to find where to leave a message. Oh, okay. So go back to Facebook and do it, you mean?
Go back to Facebook, go back
sure.
to yeah, because I don't know. There you go. And then just put it there so then people can click there. It's as I said, it's in the body, but sometimes people, just don't read it. And
absolutely no problem at all.
I so appreciate you both being here.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thanks,
on
Jacqueline.
summer solstice. Okay. All right. Love you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.